To know who we are is in large part to understand the story or stories that we are a part of. The great questions: who are we? Why are we here? What is our task? Are best answered by telling a story. This quote from Rabbi Jonathan Sachs of blessed memory is one of the grounding texts of this year's confirmation class. In Judaism, our stories help us to answer these critical questions about ourselves and the relationship to the world and the rest of humanity. This week's Torah portion is no exception. Vayeshev is a story about our patriarch Jacob and his 12 sons. One of Jacob's sons, Joseph, is resented by his siblings due to the blatant favoritism that he receives from his father. This resentment motivates his siblings to conspire to kill Joseph one day when they are far from home. Despite their intention, they end up selling Joseph into slavery. So what changed their minds? Well, the answer lies with Reuben. Reuben is the eldest of Joseph's brothers. He advocates that instead of killing Joseph, the brothers throw him into a pit and tell their father that he had been killed by wild animals. Reuben's plan is to return to the pit and save his brother once cooler heads prevail. However, when Reuben briefly leaves his brothers, they take the opportunity to sell Joseph into slavery. The way this story is told is very important. The only family members directly mentioned in this Torah portion are Jacob, Joseph, and Reuben. Rather than being given names, all of the other brothers are called they or the brothers. This language illuminates the idea of the herd mentality at play in the narrative. The brothers were not acting as individuals, rather as members of a group or mob. We do not know if all the brothers truly wanted to kill Joseph, or if they only agreed to do so because they thought the rest of their siblings wanted to. Reuben is named because he was the only character that stood up and tried to defend his brother. That being said, he did not do enough. Reuben begins to do the right thing, but doesn't ultimately complete the moral act. He stops his brothers from shedding Joseph's blood, but he doesn't call his brothers out for their cruelty, nor directly save him. While Reuben may prevent the death of Joseph, his inability to take an overt moral stand allows the brothers to sell Joseph into slavery. We can learn a lot from Reuben, despite his seemingly minor role. On the one hand, had Reuben remained silent, Joseph would most likely be dead. Yet on the other, if Reuben had done more, Joseph may have returned home to his father that night. It is even possible that more of his brothers would have stood by Reuben's side and broken the herd mentality if he had taken a stronger stance. The obvious lesson the Torah is teaching us is that we must be better than the brothers. Going with the group, subsuming our identity, and more can lead to terrible outcomes. But more subtly and more importantly, the Torah communicates that we must be better than Reuben as well. Our interventions as upstanders must be vocal, unequivocal, and strong in order to achieve justice. This story teaches us the importance of being an effective upstander by showing us the consequences of not fully standing up for what is right. It is not easy to be a lone upstander in a sea of both bystanders and aggressors. While Judaism expects this of us, we also know that doing the so-called right thing is much easier when there is a community of people supporting us. Therefore, it is important that we, as a Jewish community, unite and commit to identifying injustice in its many forms and act together to fight for what is right. So who are we? Why are we here? What is our task? This week, the Torah suggests we must work to be more than Jacob's sons, acting as a group for their own benefit, and even more than Reuben, who tries to do the right thing in a quiet and secretive way. We are to be a people ready to stand up to the wrongs that we see around us, loudly, clearly, and without hesitation. It is my hope that we can find it within ourselves and within each other the courage to do so.